So my second topic is about masters athletes. When we talk about masters athletes, we're talking about older athletes who are still competing aggressively. So my title here is Masters Athletes, Superhumans with Gray Hair and Wrinkled Skin. So when you think about aging process, you can see this is one individual going from very young age to the age of 75. And you can see the transformation of the face as well as the physique. And some of the things you come across with aging, you can't really avoid. Because if you look at them, hair gets white or gray. You can see that lots of wrinkles in the face. So you can see what happens to the bodies in some of us. But if you actually do opposite, okay, these are the masters athletes here on the right side. And if you hide the face, and if you just look at body here, and if I ask you, how old do you think he is? Probably not many of you can answer how old he is. In fact, he's 67 years of age. He's very old, but he's still competing. So I'm going to focus on two things in my talk. One is this competitive age. How late can you compete against young athletes? And then I'm going to go into those elderly athletes next. So the idea is, what is the maximum age that you can compete against young, healthy athletes? And if you look around, there are lots of examples of older athletes who are still competing. This is Ryan Giggs from my team, Manchester United. And he was a EPL champion at the age of 39 last year, and he's still competing even to this day. This is Dana Torres, and when she won Olympic silver medals, she was age 41, and she trains very strenuously, and you can see from her biceps, and you can see six packs on her stomach. And this is Jamie Moyer. Probably baseball is not popular here, but I can tell you that he was amazing at the age of 45, winning World Series in the baseball. And Jack Nicklaus, I don't know if golf is popular here, but when he won the Masters Championship, he was 46 years of age. And you may be thinking, well, golf is not really strenuous sport, so it's possible. Well, if you look at the Martina Navratilova, when she won a US Open doubles, she was 49 years of age competing against athletes of at least half of her age. So it's pretty impressive feat. And there are lots of other notable athletes here, that even from Egypt, Roger Miller, when he competed in the World Cup, for example, he was very old. Well, if you look at the current athletes, what kind of age distribution do you have? So these are the American athletes who are competing, in the Olympics here. Okay? The blue in the men and the red in the females. So if you draw the line over this 30 years of age, so here's young athletes and here's older athletes, and you can see a lot of athletes are competing above age 30. And if you draw the line at age 40 here, you see lots of athletes still competing in many of the demanding sports, like tennis, for example. So it is possible to compete even at older age against young athletes. So this is very interesting analysis that I showed you. So this shows a track and field event on this column here, from 100 meters to marathon. And when the first Olympic was held in Athens, Greek, these are the Olympic winning times. So 100 meters, 12 seconds, and marathon is 2 hours and 58 minutes. So what we did in this table here is we looked at the current age group records that surpass the Olympic time period. So as you can see here, now, the 61 years of age, they can beat an Olympic winning time and win the gold medals. If you look at the marathon, now we're talking about 73-year-old men can beat Olympic winning time and win the gold. And if you talk thinking about this 1896 here, okay, the life expectancy at 1896, if you go up here, okay, life expectancy was even 45 years of age. So what does that mean? Well, if you go back here, most of those athletes are over the 45 years of age. So that means dead men can beat those Olympic athletes. It's quite surprising and impressive. So when you think about old, we think about physical limitations. So this is a Japanese character that represents old. It turns out this character came from this ideogram. So this is an older man with long hairs, with curved back, and they have to use stick to move around. So aging is associated with activity limitations, so there's no question about that. And when you look at physical fitness variables, total lung capacity, balance, strength, flexibility, endurance, they all go down with advancing age. You can see from 30 years of age to 80 years of age. So there's no question that you are going against the hill when you try to compete. So I showed you what happened in this competitive age here. So now I'm going to focus on these elderly populations, how active you can be in these populations. Well, when you look at the masters athletes, they're completely different spectrum compared with frail elderly, because frail elderly have an increased risk of disease, and cognitive function is going down, and the physical function is going down. But when you look at the masters athletes, they're very active, their disease is absent, and they're a very promising population to study, because that could give us a lot of information in terms of what do we need to do as we get old. Here's a Masters Marathon record holders from Canada. And if you look at him, and you may be thinking, well, the world record in the Masters athlete is not really that impressive. Because as shown in the graph here, I mean the cartoon here, at first I was excited to have won my age group, then I realized I was only one competing in those events. Okay? But if you look at his time, it's very impressive. He is the oldest man to run sub 3 hours marathon, and he was 73 years of age. If you run a marathon, you can tell how difficult to break 3-hour mark in the marathon. And more impressive thing is, at the age of 80 years of age, he ran 3:15 in the marathon. That's quite impressive. She is a Japanese lady. She's 85 years of age. And she's a world record holder in 100-meter sprint. Look at her time. 19.83 seconds. I mean, that's pretty impressive at the age of 85. We can talk about who's the best athletes in the world. People talk about Michael Phelps in the swimming. But Michael Phelps cannot get closer to this Canadian woman, Olga, age of 90. Look at her. She has 700 gold medals. And she's a world record holder in all kinds of track and field events I'm listing in here. So she's amazing in terms of athletic achievement. Kozo Haraguchi is a Japanese man. He's a world record holder in 100 meters. He's age 95, and look at his time, 22 seconds. That's impressive. But he wasn't satisfied. Oh, by the way, he's very tiny. His height is 1.46 meters and 38 kilos. He's a very tiny man. And 2 months later, he broke his own record by going to 21.69 seconds. I mean, that's an impressive feat again. Well, so if that's the case, how can you maintain your performance? Well, one way to do this is to analyze a running performance that's collected across age groups here. And here's 10K or 10 kilometers, and here's marathon. Both are very similar. So what I'm going to do is to focus on this graph here. And what you can see is endurance performance, at least, can be maintained until about late 30s. Then you see a modest decline in performance. Then around 60 years of age, you can see an exponential increase in time or decrease in the performance as you get old. And another thing you notice in this graph is that if you compare the women in the red and the men in the yellow, women appears to experience greater reduction in the performance as you get old. So that's actually running. So next, what we decided to do is to look at the swimming. The swimming is unique in many aspects. Yeah? Because swimming is a primarily upper body task compared with lower body task here. And it's clearly performed in the water. So because of that, it is a non-weight bearing activities. So the rate of orthopedic injury is extremely low. So as you get old, you experience a lot of injuries, and you can avoid an effective injury of the performance by studying swimming. Another thing is, the swimming is unique in that if you look at the number of males and number of females, they're very close to each other. So in terms of addressing gender difference, it's a lot more suitable. So what we did is to collect swimming performance data in the 1500 meter freestyle. So 1500 meter in the swimming is endurance event. Okay? What you see here is in the running, okay, the age that you can maintain your performance is happening about 35 years of age. But you can see in the swimming, you can maintain your performance till fairly late age of 45, and the age at which exponential decline in performance happens came in late here. Okay? And another thing that you notice, you can see a lot of gap between women and men in those 50 meter freestyle. Oops, I went back here. So one thing I wanted to emphasize here is this is 1500 meters. And if you go to 50 meter freestyle, this is a sprint swimming performance similar to a 100 meter running. And you can see there is no gap, no overlap between men and women. Okay? And another thing you see here is that the rate of increase is a lot slower in 50 meter freestyle compared with 1500 meters. And this is nothing new. Even if you look at the running performance, you can see the marathon times goes down substantially with advancing age, but you can better maintain 100 meter performance to a later age. So next what we did is to look at a muscular strength and power. How much can you maintain your muscular strength and power? This is Helen, by the way. Look at, she's 81, and look at her biceps. I mean, that's impressive. And look at her age 91, and look at the deadlift that she's doing. And look at a young man's face admiring her achievement. It's quite impressive. So, how much muscle strength goes down with age? Well, one of the things you do is well, you're going to use isometric strength, which is not really specific to the sports. But based on those, people have some understanding that muscle strength can be maintained until about 50 to 55 years of age, then goes down. And if you look at some of the physique of older athletes, it could be possible. Look at these guys here. So he's 59, and he's 65, he's 67. If you think about it, that's quite impressive that they can maintain this kind of physique to a later age. And look at this Japanese bodybuilder. He's 76 years of age, has impressive physique. Well, females, it's the same thing. She's the oldest bodybuilder in the world. She's 74 years of age. And if you look at her biceps, triceps, any kind of muscles you can see, it's quite impressive. In fact, if you cover her face, you really can't tell how old she is, especially on this, right? So it is better you can maintain the strength and power as you get old. And another thing we did, let's look at powerlifting and weightlifting. I'm understanding that weightlifting is very popular here. So I don't have to explain because weightlifting does have snatch, clean and jerk, and those kind of movement. We also have a powerlifting, which consists of deadlift, bench press, and squat. So what we did is how those performance changes with advancing age. Interesting thing we found is that there is substantial reduction in the muscle strength even at 40 years of age, and you can see it goes down. And another thing I want you to notice here is that if you compare men and the women, there is no difference in the powerlifting. But an interesting thing is this, weightlifting performance. You can see more substantial reduction in the performance in the weightlifting. And if you compare men in the white here and the women in the black, you can see women experience substantial reduction in the performance time. So the idea is that if the performance requires skill and explosive power, it's more affected by the aging process. So let's go back to endurance exercise performance. So if a endurance exercise performance goes down with age, what are the physiological mechanisms underlying that reductions? We can think about these three factors that predict endurance performance. Maximum oxygen consumption, or VO2 max, or lactate threshold, or running economy. And this is a study that we did. You can see the 10K running performance goes down as you get old from 23 to 37 to 49. Okay? And when you look at the running economies, it doesn't change that much with age. So running economy is not going to explain the age-related decline. When you look at the VO2 max, it goes down consistent with 10K performance. So VO2 max is one of the factors explaining endurance performance. What about lactate threshold? Well, lactate threshold goes down similarly to VO2 max or endurance performance. But when you adjust this expression in the velocity for percent of VO2 max, it becomes pancake flat like this. So that means VO2 max is the primary factor dictating reduction in endurance performance. In fact, when you look at the association between a maximum oxygen consumption and 10K running performance, you can see very close association between the two. One of the key factors that you can maintain your performance to a later age is the maintenance of training volume and training intensities. If you look at the many populations, running mileage goes down with age, and frequency of training goes down, and intensity also goes down. So these are the primary factors, it turns out, that reducing your performance as you get old. And it is possible, okay, to maintain your training volume and training intensity for a period of about 10 years. As you can see here in the late Michael Parks study, that you can see VO2 max is not really going down in some populations. But if you look at the later studies, especially look at this, it is almost impossible to maintain training intensity and training stimuli longer than 20 years. So, what is the master's athlete I'm talking about? He's Hideyoshi Miyazaki. He's 100 years of age. And look at his time, 29.83 seconds in 100-meter sprint. It's impressive. Another impressive thing is he can even do Usain Bolt himself. So what is master's athlete? Well, if you look at his face, you can tell what the master's athlete is all about. That's all I have. Thank you very much.